Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Talking About Rock. I'm Rob Edwards. Each week, we usually bring you interviews with rock musicians. Today, we change it up a bit. The time has finally come again that all heavy metal fans wait for. The latest album from the Prince of Darkness himself, Patient Number 9. Here to discuss that and all things Ozzy related today, we are so pleased to have with us Dan Drago and Josh Crum from the Diary of the Madmen, the ultimate Ozzy podcast.
Hey, how you doing, Rob? Thank you so much for having us.
Hey
Super
guys,
excited
so great
to
to be here. I'm glad you can make it. We got everybody together finally. That's awesome. So tell us about, I love your podcast, guys. It's great. I'm listening to the show all the time, as all the Ozzy fans out there should be doing. So I don't know who wants to start. Maybe tell us a little bit about that and how that came about.
Go ahead, Dan.
So me and Josh met on a Black Sabbath message board probably about 12 years ago. And we would talk on there, and we knew right away we were the Ozzy guys on the podcast. On the message board. So I got his information, or he got my information. We started bullshitting separately. And then the relationship and friendship just grew and grew and grew. And I want to make no bones about it. You know, Josh and I are great friends first and foremost. And then the podcast is just something we do on top of it. So we just decided, we talk all the time about Ozzy. Why don't we just start recording our conversations? And we've been doing it. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary, and it's really taken off, and it's even way bigger and better than either of us ever expected.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I really enjoy it. You know, that's kind of how I started this show here. Me and my co-host in Nashville, who couldn't be with us tonight, though. Same kind of thing. We're always talking music, always talking rock. So we decided, time to start something up about it. So let's get to it. What we all wanted to chat about here. So it's finally coming in September. We've all been waiting for it. Patient Number 9. The whole album will be getting dropped. So let's talk about the first track, which is amazing. I was blown away. I've listened to the thing over 1,000 times. I keep watching the video, keep finding new cool stuff in it. You know what I mean? I was blown away.
Yeah, Patient Number 9 at first really was a bit of a grower for me, but man, it's been, a month now, maybe 5 weeks since it came out, and it continues to get better and better every time I hear it. Like you said, you hear new things, you see new things about it, and it just feels like it keeps on getting better. Like there's so much stored in that 7-minute package of that song that there's things you didn't notice until you've listened to it for the 15th time or the 30th time. It's crazy. And the way that they interweaved Andrew Watt's guitar with Zakk Wylde and Jeff Beck, it's fucking fabulous.
Yeah, just amazing graphics, and Jeff Beck is just crushing it. I would have not kind of put that together myself,
Yeah, I love his solos in the song. They're very rock oriented, which I think fits the song really well, because the as great as the riff is, it's not super heavy, right? What I love about Patient Number 9 is the construction of it. I know a lot of people verse, chorus, but if you really listen to Patient Number 9, it's got some cool key changes. That ending outro, that's like 1 minute and 20 seconds of music, that fantastic bridge. I love that they do so much in 7.5 minutes, and it doesn't feel at all like a 7.5 minute epic.
No,
never does.
Yeah, what the song feels like to me is it feels like a classic Ozzy song right out of the box.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't think we were going to get that again, Yeah.
And Ozzy's voice sounds marvelous. I thought his voice sounded pretty good on Ordinary Man, considering his age and the condition. But it seems like Patient Number 9 is even a step forward from that. He just sounds remarkably good on this track.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I liked Ordinary Man. I liked the songs on that. But that's, like I said, I didn't think we were going to get something metal, something hardcore again. I wasn't sure where Ozzy was, headed next. And then this dropped, and I was just blown away.
Yeah, the great thing about it is Andrew Watt learning and evolving. And I just told Josh and our buddy Ryan, who's a big friend of the show, the other day, what I love about this so much is it's kind of a left turn from Ordinary Man. It's the same production team. Chad Smith's heavily involved. Obviously, Robert Trujillo's new to this record, and he's bringing in a lot of guitar players. But I love the fact that it's such a left turn. And these 2 songs that have dropped so far sound nothing like Ordinary Man.
Yes, definitely nothing like it. Yeah, so I was real excited to hear the new track, Degradation Rules. So they got Tony Iommi on that, recreating the magic that was Black Sabbath. That's there. I said it. It's been recreated. We didn't think it could rise again, but it has, you know, and then we also have, you know, the harmonica here that's reminiscent of the Wizard, you know, that's what I heard.
That's pretty much what everyone heard. I mean, even from the moment they released the teaser and you hear that little snippet of harmonica, it was like, oh shit, we got Wizard vibes already. Like that's what we want to hear. And any Ozzy fan loves to hear him play the harmonica, man. It's just, there's just something special about it. And there's something so unique about hearing him do that. And he isn't the world's greatest harmonica player. He's not bad, but it's just so fun to hear him throw down on a track with his harmonica, and knowing that it makes him feel more involved also. Like, you know, it means a lot to him. If you ever watch the show, Ozzy and Jack's World Detour, he was always carrying that harmonica. And anytime he had a free moment, he's picking it out, just kind of harping on it, you know, and stuff. So fun to hear that, man. And, you know, Degradation rules. We're still trying to decipher, Dan and I, if that is Tony Iommi on the rhythm of the song or not. I kind of lean that it's not. I believe that's Andrew Watt, maybe Zach Wilde, and Tony's just on the solo. I actually have a message in to try to get us an answer on that. I'll let you know if I get that anytime soon. But Tony's on that guitar solo, man, is just absolutely smoking. And just having his presence on Ozzy's solo track is just unbelievable, and something really kind of way overdue, to be honest.
Definitely. And the video I thought was mind-blowing again. You know, it was totally different from what they did with Patient Number 9, but it was just so cool and so intense. It again harkened me back to the Black Sabbath days with what they did with the graphics.
Yeah.
So the irony is, so far, it does not appear Tony Iommi has a writing credit for this track, which blows my mind. And I'm sure I'm speaking for Josh as well, because this sounds so much like Black Sabbath. So the fact that I believe Andrew Watt has written most of the riff with probably Robert Trujillo, they have really done a wonderful job of capturing that essence and spirit of what Black Sabbath is. If you listen to that rhythm section behind Tony's solo, fuck, it's like fairies wear boots. There's so much swinging going on. It's unbelievable. They've done a great job. I'm just flabbergasted that Tony doesn't have a writing credit. That's how much it sounds like Sabbath.
Yeah, I will have to check that much closer. Yeah, when I heard that, I was listening to it all day yesterday over and over again, because I was just blown away by it. And of course, being the huge Ozzy fan that I am, it's like I need more Ozzy. So when is the rest of it coming? And I'm hoping the other stuff is just as amazing, just as cool. But, and I know you guys are in the know about like the packaging for this too. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. What are the packagings they're offering? Are there different collector stuff, different packagings they're having coming out for it?
Yeah, so Ozzy covets having a Billboard #1 album solo. It's something he's never done. He has done it with Black Sabbath. He's never done it solo. He's always been so close. He's always fallen in the 3 and 4 range. And they try with every release a new way to potentially push him over to that #1 spot. Remember the Free Fest tickets back in 2004? If you bought Black Rain, you got free tickets to Ozfest and all that stuff. Yeah. So they're always trying little marketing ploys to get him over the edge. The ploy with Patient Number 9 is that there are a million different variants of covers, of different color vinyl, whatever, different styles of packaging that you can get. They're really trying to get people to buy multiple copies as most as they can to really push it over to that #1 spot. There's probably, what would you say, Dan, at least 20 different colors you can buy, color variants for the vinyl?
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly what they're doing.
There's a ton of them. And then they released the special Todd McFarlane cover edition with a different cover that has the Patient Number 9 drawing, like from the comic book on it. And then that's available also on vinyl or CD. And then they released a variant of that with the blue marble vinyl. So there's a million different to choose from. And no doubt people's buying multiple copies. I know I've bought, I think, 4 at this point. 2 CDs and 2 records, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I've bought 4 vinyl and 2 CDs. So I'm up to 6 copies already.
It's just crazy,
It's insane. Yeah.
That's
but some of the variants, they're so amazing. Like the Walmart variant is perfect. It goes great with the original cover because it's got the gold vinyl. And then he released the Todd McFarlane variant. And then I bought that one because it was black, which I didn't have a black copy yet. And then they came out with this really cool blue variant that goes with it. So I just bought that one. So I do love the colors they're doing, but I mean, I understand where they're coming from. And me and Josh know few people that are a little frustrated because there is so much out there, but I think it's kind of cool. If I see another version out there that's pretty cheap, I'm sure I'll pick it up.
Very cool, very cool. And I know he's killing it on streaming. Definitely, I know his Spotify numbers are huge for the song. I'm sure he's gonna get it this time. I mean, everything's just been through the roof. And let's be honest, what other great metal is out there right now?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of bands that have been put back together or have different members or trying to get that sound again, but I don't think they're even coming close anywhere at all, you know?
Hey, that is a hell of a point, Rob. And how many people are in their 70s not resting on their laurels doing tours of just playing the hits? I fucking love that Ozzy loves to record and write music, because that's really where his passion is. He's already talked about having another one in him. To me, that gets me and Josh more geeked than anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I was gonna say, the same thing, Dan. Yeah, he's in his mid-70s and still putting out quality material. There's not many artists that can say that.
Exactly. And I know it is so hard, like for us hardcore rock fans, we love all that old stuff that came out. And so sometimes it's really hard to break through with the newer songs and for us to get that vibe again and get that feeling. But I get that with these tracks. It definitely shows through. You know, the writing is there, the talent is there. It's just like I said, it sounds like classic Ozzy to me, and I was blown away.
Yeah, and
really
another
does.
thing, I'm sorry. Another thing I wanted to point out too, is that one thing about Ordinary Man, Ordinary Man, Dan and I both agree, is Ozzy's best record since OZZMOSIS, in our opinions. So, but if you speak with the typical Ozzy fans online, it's kind of split. It was divisive. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people hated it. But the reason they hated it was because Andrew Watt is kind of primarily known as a pop producer, even though he's a rocker at heart, right? He used to play in the band with Glenn Hughes, California Breed, before he was a producer.
Right.
But he's known best for working with Justin Bieber, Post Malone, Miley Cyrus, people like that. So when he comes out with Ozzy, a lot of the metal community immediately just started hating on it because Andrew Watt was producing it and played guitar on it. So with this new album, to push it over the top, that's why Andrew Watt, in our opinion, you'll see every track featuring Jeff Beck, featuring Zakk Wylde, featuring Tony Iommi. They knew, Watt, your guitar playing's great, but the fans want to see these guys. So while there's songs that Andrew Watt wrote and his guitar tracks are being used also, I mean, they're not discarding those. He is on the record. But bringing in Zakk Wylde to redo the rhythm sections, and then, you got Tony Iommi and Zakk and Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton doing leads. I mean, what a brilliant marketing idea also to try to win over not only your newer fans, but to keep the old school fans happy also. And I got to tell you, Degradation rules. When I first heard it, it was a little bit of a grower for me. The first few listens, I wasn't so sure. I knew I loved it, and I knew I definitely.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't for me either. Yeah.
It took me a second, but I got to tell you, the metal community's taken the Degradation rules better than they did any of the singles on Ordinary Man. And I think it's because of one guy, Tony Iommi. Yeah. People just love Tony Iommi. And the minute we released Tony Iommi's name on this, the metal world's going to go berserk.
Tony Iommi, metal creator. That's all I got to say.
No question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I love about Degradation Rules, though, is it's heavy as shit, right? I mean, that riff is so heavy, but the melody Ozzy is using in the verses is very Beatlesque. If you listen to it, there's so much Beatles in his vocal melody. So it's just classic Ozzy, because Ozzy's been doing that his whole career.
Yeah, well, he's always said the Beatles,
John Lennon. Yeah,
he said the Beatles are a huge influence on him, from day one. He loved that.
Yeah, so if you listen to that melody, it's like something off Revolver. It's so fucking great.
Intense. So we started talking about it a little bit here about different albums and stuff like that. So I figure let's pull it out of the bag now. Why don't we? If we want to go around, top three. We'll do top three Ozzy albums because we know what the top two are probably going to be, right?
Yeah. It's a little easy.
I might remove one just to make it fun.
Who wants to go first? You want to go first?
I'll go ahead and go first. I'll let Dan think about what one he wants to remove. So for me, I had to be that guy. So 1A and 1B. But my favorite Ozzy record today is Diary of a Madman. To me, it's the one that definitely showcases everyone's ability to the apex of what they can do. And the song Diary of a Madman is the greatest heavy metal song of all time. I just don't think it can be topped. It is the stairway to heaven of hard rock, if ever there was one. That outro with the London Chamber Choir and everything, it's absolute metal perfection. I just don't know any
I
metal
gotta
that
agree with you, but I
wouldn't
gotta disagree on the one track. I would say You Can't Kill Rock and Roll is the ultimate track for me.
love it. Okay.
Anyway.
I love that. That's great. Yeah. No, that's cool. But at the same time, I have always claimed my favorite album to be Blizzard of OZZ because it's the one that really ignited the torch for me. It was the one I was turned on to first. Crazy Train, like every other Ozzy fan probably. Caught me when I was about 13, and I went from there. So those two are clearly the two. And number three for me is probably, at a quick thought, it was Bark at the Moon. But now that I think about it harder, I swear, No Rest for the Wicked's right there also. It's just so damn solid, so good. We did a episode on No Rest for the Wicked on our show where we did an in-depth, discussed every track and the stories behind it. And it made me appreciate the album that much more. Just kind of digging back into it, and really listening to it. For me, I'm going to go for number three, No Rest for the Wicked. It's just fucking solid. It never lets up.
So
Right.
not to almost steal what Josh is going to say, but my favorite album of all time by far is Diary of a Madman. It's not even close. It's my favorite album by anybody. It's perfection front to back. And what those four guys did, it amazes me. I never get tired of it. Like, I get tired of Crazy Train, I get tired of You Got Another Thing Coming. There's 1,000 songs I could talk about getting tired of. There's not one track off of Diary of a Madman where I am tired of it. I can listen to it front to back always. Diary of a Madman, the song, is my favorite song of all time. So I'm going to echo Josh there. Sorry, I love You Can't Kill Rock and Roll, but there's just something about Diary of a Madman. Number two is clearly Blizzard of OZZ. You just can't. I was going to joke and take that out, but here's just the truth. You cannot ever take away what those four guys did. Those Ozzy, Randy, Bob, and Lee together is gold. It's magic. I even like it better than Sabbath. I'll tell you right now. Those two records are my favorite two records of all time. My third is Bark at the Moon. Clearly, I'm obsessed with the record. I think it's dark. It's got some of Ozzy's coolest memories. And the fact where Ozzy was after Randy's death and the dissimulation of his band, the fact that he was able to make a record so great blows me away. But I will give you a 3A, and that is OZZMOSIS. I'm a big fan of OZZMOSIS.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree with you on mostly all those points for sure. For me, the first two albums are almost like should have been a double album package.
Right.
You know what I mean? Blizzard and Diary is like Kiss Alive 2 to me. It's like they should have came out in one package. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like the completion of the circle of everything. So those just did it for me. And it's kind of a tie between it's kind of a tie between Bark at the Moon for me and Ultimate Sin. Just because a lot of the different subject matter on Ultimate Sin I thought was really intriguing. But Bark at the Moon definitely was, the continuation of Ozzy for sure. Exactly. Every track in there, Center of Eternity, amazing.
Jakey Lee is so good on that record.
Excellent
so
stuff.
good. Yeah. And we typically, Dan and I, if we do anything like, hey, who's your favorite, like give me an Ozzy band and who's your favorite guitar player and bass player and what's your ultimate Ozzy group? When we do shit like that, we always say, well, the Blizzard of OZZ era doesn't count because obviously you go with those four guys because the magic was just so perfect, like Dan said, that you just can't use those dudes because it was just the perfect group, Right. So if you use those, that would always be your answer, right? Like I said, it's just more of that, So we always kind of we always have like the Black Sabbath era, the Blizzard of OZZ era, then everything else because that's just kind of how it feels.
Yeah, it was just an amazing
I'd have to
time.
say it is. And Ultimate Sin is right there for me, but I'm not a huge fan of the production. I think Ron Nevison glammed it up a little bit too much for me personally. And I think some of the choruses are a little bit too much a sign of the times with the Rockin' All Night and We Will Rock. And I don't know, some of it, I love the Ultimate Sin, and it's special to me because when it came out and how old I am. And I remember the day buying the vinyl, but I think Bark is considerably superior.
Yeah, for me, Killer Giants just was a great song. I just love
fucking
that.
amazing. Yeah. Fool Like You is maybe one of Ozzy's most underrated tracks. of course, next to Waiting for Darkness being his most underrated track. But Fool Like You is fucking phenomenal, man.
Yes.
How can someone not love Waiting for Darkness?
Oh, the greatest track never to be. I don't even understand it. It's a top 5 Ozzy song for me all time. It's amazing.
When Dan and I first fell in love with each other, it was when we were chatting online one day, and I said, and I don't remember if he said it first or me, but it's like, man, like Waiting for Darkness is Ozzy's most underrated song. I'm like, fuck, I know, me too. Like, I agree.
Right.
You know, it's like, yeah, that song is amazing. And that's when we really realized we're on the same level here. Like, we think alike, you know.
When I play that album, that's the song I always play first every time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Every
awesome.
time. That
So
should have been
do
an
you-
opener for me. That should have been the opener. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be a killer. Yeah. Do you recall?
I think it's a great closer, though.
It is a great closer. Before we joked about it on the show some, but before the No More Tours 2 tour, Ozzy, they had asked about any, deep tracks, and he said, "Oh yeah, we've been doing Waiting for Darkness, and it sounds great at rehearsal." And Dan and I were just so damn excited. And I was at opening night in Jacksonville, Florida, and Dan's texting me all night. He's like, "Has he played Waiting for Darkness? Has he played Waiting for Darkness?" And of course he didn't. I was so disappointed, man, because I waited on it all night long, and he never did play it.
What a tease. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah. Well, I got to see him play it on the Bark at the Moon tour, so that was pretty cool.
Oh,
No,
my.
he never played Waiting for Darkness.
Did he
live.
play it on the tour? Are you sure?
No, Bark at the Moon. He played Bark at the Moon, Rock and Roll Rebel, Center of Eternity are the 3 ones he played from that album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, let's switch categories here a little bit, and let's discuss kind of what's been going on in Ozzy's life recently.
Sure.
So first off, he's been going through a lot of health issues here. He just came out of surgery. Looks like he's doing a lot better, and he just did the Comic Con in San Diego.
Yeah.
Guys, got any thoughts and feedback around that? We know he announced, was it last year or the year before, about the Parkinson's that was going on too, and he's battling that now.
Yeah. I came across a video on YouTube. It was from Entertainment Tonight, where they had interviewed him at the Comic Con briefly at his table, literally while he was signing the autographs. And I sent it to Dan immediately, and we both just gushed over. He looked excellent. He looked so good at the Comic Con.
Yep, I just watched that today. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
so you've
sounds
seen
excellent too.
Yeah, he sounds so good, and he takes his time to think and speak, intelligently, with thought about what he's wanting to say, and he's not stuttering as much. He looked so good, man. It definitely warmed my heart to see it.
Because let's be honest, it used to be difficult to understand the guy sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. He looked good. He sounded good. And Sharon had said on Pierce Morgan the day before that he was doing a lot better, but you just never know if that's just, people speaking and trying to be optimistic or what. But then seeing him the next day at the Comic-Con, he looked great.
When Ozzy was in the height of his mumbling and just being incoherent, I believe, a lot of people don't realize he had the same doctor that Michael Jackson had that OD'd Michael Jackson and killed him. Ozzy was taking 70 pills a day during that time, and he was just so fucked up from prescribed medication. And that's why, people think he's not there, but when he's not on all that shit, you could clearly see the wit, the charm. He's 100% there mentally, and that's what means the most to Josh and I, no question about it. The Parkinson's is hard for me to see a little bit because he is noticeably shaking, so it really makes me sad. But I love the guy's spirit out there at 73 and still, hitting Comic-Con. And I don't know if we'll ever see him on stage again, but just the fact that he's out there doing his thing makes me really happy.
Yeah. And, even at the Comic-Con, that's what he said to Entertainment Tonight, if you recall. He said, "This is what I love being out here and seeing these people." And just, that's the first time he's been in front of a crowd in 2 years. And you could tell it meant as much to him as it did to all the people there waiting to meet him, just to be able to be out in public and make an appearance and feel proud of himself and feel like he looks okay. I'm sure it's discouraging to go out shaking and you don't feel well, and he's crippled over and humped over, and they're having to help him walk. From what I understand, he's kind of doing all that on his own right now and doing really well with it. So that's excellent. Yeah,
he did look really good during the video, and he did sound really well. We hope to see him, out at least doing the one more tour. Like you guys are saying, it's amazing, that he's still able to do this, what he's gone through and stuff. Let's hope we have him around for quite a while longer. So let's change tracks a little bit. We had some really, really cool news. He had an announcement with his daughter, Kelly, about her pregnancy. That was pretty cool and awesome, right?
He is glowing about it. He's so excited. Yeah.
It's going to be a mix between Osbourne's and Slipknot. I mean,
what the hell exactly.
Is that?
Well, I think he was saying that he's got to buy a microphone and a guitar, the first 2 presents for the baby.
That's right. That baby's going to have music in their blood. No question about it.
No question about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought that was such a cool announcement. You could see how excited he was and how happy.
Right.
And that's
he's
glowing. And so you never know who's going to be next for the throne in years to come, right? We might have another metal master down the line. We hope.
That's right. So. Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of the rock kids are trying, man. Every day I feel like I'm reading Metallica's kids are doing some band or this band. Or,
yeah.
You know, I know Tony's daughter does stuff. It's kind of great to see.
Excellent. Yeah. I hope we get something like that down the road, and this doesn't just change into something that's the regurgitated pop kind of stuff that we have now. So let's hope.
Jack's always been cool as hell, but he's just never really went into the music side of it, other than he's more the Sharon Osbourne management side or the promoter side.
Yeah,
or, you know,
he's definitely the promoter. I love the Detour show with him and Ozzy. That was real cool.
It's so cool, man. I loved it when they were in Virginia, and I don't know if you remember that episode. It was one of the first ones, and they were eating Chick-fil-A in the drive-thru, and Ozzy's like devouring Chick-fil-A, and Flying High again came on the radio. Did you see that episode? And Ozzy just reaches over and turns it down, and Jack turns it back up, and Ozzy turns it back down, and Jack's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I don't want to hear that." Jack said, "You just never thought you'd be here, did you?" And Ozzy said, "Where?" He said, "In the middle of Virginia, eating Chick-fil-A in a rented Ford while you listen to yourself on the radio." You know,
That's awesome.
You know what?
A cool show. You know,
what the most memorable I think for me was with that when they took him back to the archives and he got to listen to the original recordings that Randy did, and
that was great.
Could just see the emotion and the memories just flooding back to him of all that magic back then and his friendship with Randy and what was going on in his life at that time. I'm sure just came rushing back.
Yep, he says it all the time. He only knew Randy for 3 years, but it felt like a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I truly believe he still carries the burden of his death. I think he blames himself for that. I think he still does. He had mentioned several years ago that I promised his mother I'd take care of him, but I brought him home in a pine box. You know, he always kind of says that stuff like that. And I think that still carries with Ozzy to this day.
Yeah, I think that would go through with anyone like that. You would have that type of thing hanging over you, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But another thing that's been going on in the Ozzy world, obviously, you wanted to talk about a little bit, and I think you guys are aware of it, the Knight Ozzy Osbourne campaign going on. And the petition at change.org, it's been headed by Helen Medeiros. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Medeiros, thank you. Medeiros. And I think she started in 2011. And they have about 34,000 signatures at this point, and they're trying to get knighthood bestowed on Ozzy for impactful work for his profession. I think that's cool. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's amazing. I mean, Sir Ozzy just rolls right off the tongue. You know what I mean? I mean, it just is so perfect. And let's be honest, not only was the guy one of the most, he one of 4 people that was the pioneer of forming and founding heavy metal. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That's, Tony, Bill, Geezer, and Ozzy. Those guys founded it. And then how many people have had a more successful career after getting kicked out of a band like Ozzy has? It's very, very few and far between. The guy deserves it. He's a pillar. Ozfest was drop back metal here in the States. He's sold over 100 million records. They've given it to people that are way less deserving than Ozzy. So I would love to see Ozzy knighted. No question about it.
Absolutely. And Helen Medeiros is definitely a friend of our show.
Yeah,
she likes to chime in and ask questions. And when we did a Ask Us session on one of our shows, and she had a question, and that's how I know it's pronounced Medeiros, because
thank you so much. I'm so sorry about that.
That was my guess. Yeah, that was my guess on the show.
We asked her to be on the show and talk, but she couldn't be on. So
she's great. But yeah, she messaged later and said, "For the record, you got it correct, Medeiros." So
that's
awesome.
Man,
hey, she is relentless with this Knight Ozzy campaign. I mean, every post we put up, she retweets and puts her Knight Ozzy on it. Every post everyone puts up, she reposts and puts that on it. She is relentless, and this is 100% been on her back. She's worked her ass off to try to get this done.
Yep. I've been reposting her stuff and trying to spread the word as well. I think it's an amazing thing that she's doing. and she's got so much passion for it, and she's been,
Yeah.
you know, trying to plug along and get it going since 2011. You know, it took a lot of time to get some steam behind it, but finally now it's making its way around, and it's really looking good.
It is.
I can't believe what she's done with it. I just want to keep spreading the word for it. I talked to her a couple times. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
totally. And it's something that Dan and we don't really so much go on about the knighting Ozzy, which, I mean, we're on board with that also, but one of our biggest gripes is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, a lot of people don't realize that Ozzy Osbourne is still not in as a solo artist. He's in with Black Sabbath, but he's not in solo. And that's another thing that we really, we harp on that one on our show a lot. How's Ozzy Osbourne not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet?
And nobody even brings it up. That's what pisses me off. You know.
You don't want to bring up Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to me either, because I'm gonna pick them apart. I've been there twice. You know, the only thing that saves them from not getting ripped on our show all the time is that they finally figured a way to get Judas Priest in there. So,
but even that way, with the musical excellence, is so disappointing.
It is.
You know, Priest needs to be in as a band. You know, Randy got in as a musical excellence artist, and that was perfect for Randy. That was exactly what that award is for, not somebody like Judas Priest.
Yeah, I know. We had to take what we can get sometimes. You know, heavy metal is like the underdog, and we have to fight and claw our way to get through things. So some of the other people that they've nominated are just like, who are these people thinking about? I mean, I like Dolly Parton just as much as anybody else does, but does she belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Probably not.
Or just come out and have the balls to change
She even said so herself.
Yeah, I love that she came out and did that. Or just change it to the fucking Music Hall of Fame.
Right.
And then I think people would not be so irate and upset about it.
Yeah. And I've had lots of people come up and say, you know, maybe the fans should start their own Rock Hall of Fame, right? Run by the fans, and because what are they doing all this for anyway, right? It would be a totally different thing, you know. Call up Eddie Trunk and say, and I'm sure he would be on board too, and come over and take a look at it.
Yeah.
Because
like you said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. No, I'm sorry. But you've been there twice. You said I've been once. The heavy metal section is very small, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's a tiny little corner for sure.
Yeah.
I've never been. I do want to go though. I mean, being such a Beatles fan, I'm sure I'd love that part of it. But yeah, I love music in general, so I'd love to you know, I'm a big Elvis guy too, so I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
awesome.
they have a huge Elvis area, a huge Beatles area, and that's what they should have. I mean, those were huge people.
They're the two most important artists in music history.
Yeah, and you should pay homage to that. You know what I mean? Definitely. And there's a big 60s section, and there's Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and all that kind of stuff that you should definitely have. But yeah, the metal is just so small, and you know, seems underappreciated. You know,
it is. Well, I mean, even look back in the day when Sabbath was around in the 70s, they were always laughed upon by the critics. They were slammed so bad, and you know, they're definitely the most influential band of the last 50 years.
Yeah, and they were slammed in articles about shows that never happened. Like there were shows that were canceled, but yet, you know, certain publications would, you know, still put out a review of the show talking about how awful it was, and the show never even happened. So
yeah, and major publications like Rolling Stone and Cream, they fucking lambasted their records. It was brutal.
Yeah. Well, I gave them a lot of credit when they came out. They were going totally against the grain. It was like the hippie music, you know, that was going on, peace and love and everything, and they were going to go in a totally different direction, you know, and let that stand out a little bit more, which was, they're really taking a chance, which was really cool. But these guys created something that no one had done yet.
Yeah. And just think about it. This is what I always say too, Rob, and it kind of blows my mind when I think about it. When we're listening to Black Sabbath and Paranoid, that's 52 years ago. That would be like listening to something from 1918 when Black Sabbath was released. And think about how relevant it still is. I mean, every band that picks up a guitar and plays heavy metal owes something to those original Black Sabbath records.
Absolutely. You know? And lyrics that are still relevant. We've talked about it a lot on our show, but like War Pigs, the lyrics to War Pigs still stands in 2022 as much as it did in 1970.
Definitely. I totally agree. And there's so much more we could talk about with Sabbath and that. But I want to cover a couple other things. We talked a little bit about the favorite Ozzy albums. I'm sure you guys have seen Ozzy in concert quite a few times. Can you recollect like what may have been your most memorable tour or favorite tour or something cool that happened when you saw him?
Yeah, John.
One that sticks out for me, I had some really good seats, last second, really good seats in Nashville, Tennessee for the Scream tour with Gus G. And I was 5 rows back center stage. I've had front row twice, but that was back when Ozzy used that big old giant foam gun. So I got a lot of photos of me just covered in foam from literally head to toe from that concert. That one was really fun. I saw him back-to-back nights on the 13 tour with Black Sabbath. And the second night I was front row. And the first night I was in the back. That first night in Chicago was one of the best Ozzy shows. It was Black Sabbath. It was one of the best performances Ozzy has ever put on that I've seen. And I've seen him 20 plus times. And it was just magical that night. He was just, there was something in the air with him. He just was in such a good mood. He was joyful. He was singing like little show tunes on stage and just goofing off and aggravating the guys. And that one really stood out also.
And you guys just talked to Gus G. Was it a couple weeks ago too on your show, right?
About a year ago.
About a year, a year ago? Okay. I didn't know what order it was. Okay.
Yeah, he's a great guest, great guitar player. We love Gus. I still think before I answer your question, Ozzy not writing a record with Gus is a huge missed opportunity. And Joe Holmes, he should have written a record with both of those guys. So for me personally, I have 2 answers like Josh did. I can't beat the first time I saw him in 1986 on the Ultimate Sin tour with Metallica opening with Cliff Burton. I mean, I was already a huge Metallica fan and they were my second favorite band at that time, coincidentally. So when I heard that Ozzy was coming, I got to see him. My mom finally let me go to an Ozzy show because of my age, and Metallica was opening. I will never forget that concert. It was mind blowing. And my second would be the very, very first Ozfest show. The very first Ozfest show was here in Phoenix in 1996. He only did 2 dates on that tour, one in Phoenix and one in California. And I was obviously at the one in Phoenix. I had second row and the lineup was fucking stellar. And I just remember being blown away by a festival like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have to echo what you said, definitely, Dan. I saw him on the Ultimate Sin tour. That was amazing with Metallica. I was lucky to catch him when Motley Crue was playing for him. Also, I think it was Bark at the Moon tour.
That was Bark at the Moon.
Yeah, when Motley Crue opened, and that was an amazing show. That was really cool. I don't remember that one as much, unfortunately. I think I had a little bit too much good time that night. But
my mom wouldn't let me go to that one.
I'm just going to be honest with you. I was 3 years old when that one happened. So
now I'm the old man of the group.
Yeah, we are old men. I will tell you though that in Phoenix, Motley Crue wasn't allowed to play. I mean, people don't really realize all of the satanic shit that went on in the 80s and how all of the all of the conservatives and the Christians came out against heavy metal in general.
Yeah.
So here in Phoenix, it was Rat that played the show, and not Motley Crue. Yeah.
Well, let's face it, all the little satanic undertones, and it was all for show. None of these guys are Satan worshipers or devil worshipers or go to a black mass, or it's all about the showmanship and about the image. That's all it was.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I mean, Ozzy said it for years. It's like Vincent Price isn't a Satan worshiper. He just likes to act in horror movies.
Right.
And he's so right. I mean, I don't know why people couldn't separate that from the music part of things.
Yeah, exactly.
And like we all know, the original Black Sabbath album, that was so creepy, right? Like the band never even saw it until it was finished.
Right.
The inverted crucifix on the inside, that was all just the record label. The band
I think I saw a picture of the lady that's on that, and they have a picture of her now. You guys probably know her name, but
not off the top of my head.
But they had a picture of her posted what she looks like now, and they showed the old album and stuff. And
Liliana something. Cool. Yeah, she looked great.
But I thought that was so cool. That building is just so creepy, and I always see the pictures where they put like the shot of the real building that they actually used and stuff. And I thought that was so amazing and so cool.
It's amazing.
Another thing I wanted to touch on, which I really can't name another artist or band that was able to do this. When you're an opening band for Ozzy Osbourne, you're pretty much launching your career.
Oh yeah,
pretty much almost every time. There's been a couple misfires or things that didn't go as far for people. Wasted open for them. Fastway was great. They didn't really go as far as they could have gone. Super talented guys, but so many other folks. I mean, you were opening for Ozzy. you were writing your ticket if you had a good tour, pretty much is what was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that point, Rob, because I'll tell you what, so many bands are afraid to take out strong openers. But Ozzy was never that way, ever.
Never.
He was always gracious to take the best upcoming bands. And you're right, he's launched 1,000 careers. And I think that's really amazing.
And still does. I mean, when Black Sabbath went on the farewell tour and took Rival Sons out with them, I thought that was huge because Rival
Right.
Sons is probably one of the best new bands out right now. And they have a fresh sound, a fresh vintage sound. But, you know, they really hadn't earned that stripe yet to open for Black Sabbath, but yet they got the opportunity because I think those guys saw them as someone who, those guys in their management, the team, as someone who could potentially be a big fish down the road, you know, and like Dan said, they're just not afraid to do that. I mean, I saw Korn open for Ozzy in 1996, and that was before Korn was Korn at all, right? I mean, there's so many stories like that. Metallica before they were Metallica on the Ultimate Sin tour, you know, I mean, it's so many stories like that. And not to mention Ozfest, how many bands came up from that, just one after another.
Right.
Yeah.
Anthrax for the State of Euphoria tour opened for him and On No Rest for the Wicked. Obviously, Slaughter, Vixen. I mean, he has taken out so many bands.
So, I mean, you could even go back to the early years, solo, Def Leppard and Motorhead.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. Those are the support acts on the Blizzard of OZZ tour and then the United States Blizzard of OZZ tour. So it's amazing.
Yeah, I just think that speaks volumes about Ozzy, about his management, about what they were trying to do for music in general. I just think that's amazing. I wondered why he never had his own label going on and doing that. But we did have you, and you brought it up a little bit, Dan. We did have Ozfest, right? He realized he wanted to do his own festival and he wasn't going to conform to what these other guys were doing. He was going to do it himself, which I thought was super cool. And again, he brought some great bands out for people.
A lot of people don't realize too, he got told no by Lollapalooza, which is what launched Ozfest. He had tried to get on Lollapalooza and they told him, no, you're past your prime.
Right.
And Sharon, you don't tell Sharon that, that's for sure.
right.
Yeah. So that's why we got Ozfest.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
And he did have a record label for a little while. It was called Divine, right?
Divine
Josh?
Records.
Oh, did he? Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
It was very brief.
It was very
He
brief.
put out Tony Iommi's solo album, the one that had the different singers on it.
Yeah,
that was on
Iommi.
Divine Records.
And he also the Ozfest CD that came out was on Divine.
Yeah, they had a band called Pure Rubbish that I really liked that was signed to them. Just did the one album that I know of, but yeah, so they take a stab at that. I think that might have been Jack's way of trying to get involved a little, but it didn't really go over.
Well, Jack was really intricate in integral in picking the bands for Ozfest.
Booking bands for Ozfest, yeah.
Yeah.
That was when he was like 18 years old or something.
Not even.
He knew, you know, he knew who was hot and who wasn't, who had it, you know. Let's be honest, Ozzy isn't that in touch with the younger bands.
No.
I saw when he was on Ozzy Speaks the other day, Billy's like, so what frontman out there do you really like right now? And he said, Dee Snider. I was like,
That's
what
the
the
best.
fuck? Dee Snider.
Yeah.
Like,
Dee Snider needs
Ozzy-
the plug, man. He needs the
Yeah,
plug.
but we love Dee.
Snider. I love
Dee
Dee
Snider.
but
Yes.
I mean,
I've been talking to his management. He's a busy guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
But hey, let's
must
be
have
honest.
recently.
Dee's new compared to the Beatles because you know that's what
Well,
he's
that's
doing.
true. He must have watched a Twisted Sister documentary or something, because then they followed that up with what band do you feel like was underrated, and he said Twisted Sisters.
Yeah.
You know,
They were
I
fucking
like
great,
Dee
though.
Snider. He's outrageous, but
It's amazing.
he really paid his dues in his band. People don't really know unless you read the
Yes.
book.
Yeah,
and
they
see
were
everything
on the New
went
York
through.
scene for like a decade, weren't they? Before they
Yeah.
broke.
Fuck yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they definitely paid some huge dues, and I just love Dee Snider's attitude. And let's face it, he went to Congress and told them how it was back in the day. People forget that. You know, they
Absolutely.
thought they were going to get some stupid long-haired hippie freak that didn't know what he was talking about, and he was
Right.
prepared. He was well-spoken, you know, and he showed them all exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
see
talking
Josh
about
is a
that at work
baby.
the other day, actually.
Yeah.
I was talking about that, and I was telling somebody at work about how Dee did that. And I said, you know, he had this little sheet of paper, and he was all wadded up. He just unwadded the paper and read it. And my coworker said, the only thing that would have been cooler would have been if he'd been wearing his clown makeup like he wore on stage. But he walked in. And I was,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
it
a
would've been
definitely
good.
drop the mic moment in there when he did
Yeah.
that. It's like,
But the truth of the
For
matter
sure.
is, you know, you and I really, I mean, I was 13, 14 years old, I think, during all that. I really had a fear that I was not going to be able to buy the records that it was my life. Let's
Really?
be perfectly
Really?
honest. Yeah, metal was my fucking life in those days, and it's still a huge part of it. But just having the fear of going, oh my God, I might not be able to buy the new Slayer record because I'm not old enough. What the fuck? It was
I
kind of a
had
scary
the
time.
totally opposite effect with that. I was in total rebellious mode. I was like, they're not going to stop this. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And what happened? It made you want the album even
Oh, of
more.
course.
Put that sticker on
Absolutely.
there.
For sure.
I can't have it. Of course I want it.
Definitely.
You know, so it was almost like a marketing tool. It was perfect. You know what I mean?
It was the
Absolutely.
best. It was the best
You know,
marketing every one of those bands could have
Yeah,
gotten.
it's like, oh, it's a rated R movie. Of course I want to go see
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
I was just reading the Dirty 10 today, I think, and I was laughing at some of the fucking bands on there. I mean,
Right.
it's kind of funny, like Vanity. I was like, oh my God, they just went after so much. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
That was definitely so crazy back then for sure. Well, I just got one or two other things to bring up with you guys. So, and then we'll probably try to wrap it up here a little bit. I don't want to keep you any longer. So with everything that's going on, you know, Ozzy's getting older. There's not a lot of real together metal bands going on. Who is going to carry the torch for metal? Is there somebody you think that's going to come about? You think we're going to get another, you know, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue? Is somebody going to rise up and be that next big hard metal band? Are we going to get that ever again? What do you guys think? Any thoughts?
Dan, go ahead.
Dan's smiling over there. He's got something to say.
Yeah, it's not good. So I like a lot of bands, you know, like I'm a huge fan of Ghost. A lot of people don't like Ghost, but I think
No, I
Ghost
do,
is
yeah.
fucking phenomenal. And I think he's got it. You know why? Because he writes melodies and you could sing those songs and they got some great musicianship. I think if there is one band, it's going to be Ghost. I also love another band called Unto Others, but they're a little bit too underground, but they're great melodies and great music. But unfortunately, you know, I do a lot of football coaching and I'm around, you know, younger kids a lot, and
Right.
they have no idea about rock music. I mean, I am a little bit worried about rock music's future because of how it just does not resonate with the younger kids. It is
Yeah.
still huge among people our age, but Rob,
Right.
I got to be honest, it definitely scares me a little bit. Like, you know, my kids listen to it because they had no choice growing up, but you know, I'll play Metallica for these kids and they're like, well, what the fuck is this
Yeah.
shit?
Well,
You
I
turn
know
it
there's a
off.
small movement of younger kids that are into metal, that are playing guitar, that are getting into it. Hopefully that'll blossom, you know, in the future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, with the current state of music, how it's all poppy and all these different things going on, and I don't, and country, I
Right.
don't even know if it's country music anymore. It's almost like a poppy country. I don't
Right.
For
understand.
sure.
But hopefully, you know, heavy metal and rock and roll has always had to, you know, claw its way out back to the top. It'll never be as
That's
it was
true.
in the golden days of the 80s with hair
Never.
metal. But hopefully there's something that still carries the torch in the future.
Yeah.
So for me,
the biggest-
that's Ghost for sure.
Yeah. The biggest thing right now that I kind of pay attention to is I love to look at kids. I love to watch kids play instruments. I love to hear about kids learning to play guitar or learning piano or, you know, just taking an interest in musical arts. The thing that blows my mind is their heroes are the same heroes you had, the same heroes Dan had, and the ones I had. So like if a 13-year-old boy starts playing guitar right now, I can guarantee you his favorite guitar player is probably Angus Young or Randy Rhoads or Eddie Van
Or
Halen.
Eddie Van
And it's
Halen,
like,
right.
that's kind of sad because there's no one newer that they really can glom to and just take off with like we did. You know, those guys were our era guys, you know, and there's no one in the newer era that they get very excited about. And that kind of bums me out. So as far as the future goes, it makes me very nervous also. I do think in 20 years, you'll probably still have your Slipknots out there doing their tours like Ozzy is right now. Slipknot's in their 60s, but they're still out there.
But that's going to be hard to
But-
do for them at that age. It's so
For sure.
that is really hard on the body. You know, I don't know
For
if a
sure.
band like Slipknot could do that in their 60s.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's no, as far as carrying the torch, it makes me really nervous, man. It really does. I just don't know who's going to continue to pick it up. And bands come along. I mentioned Rival Sons earlier, your Greta Van Fleets that people get excited about for 10 minutes and then they're over it no time later. So it's just so hard to maintain that right now. There's so much out there.
Another one I'll mention is, go ahead. I'm sorry, Josh.
Now, as I said, the beauty with the internet is that everyone has a voice and everyone can get their band heard. But at the same time, there's so much that it's hard to
listen to all of it, and it's hard to really take to one in particular. You know, when we were growing up and you only had like 13 channels on TV, right? So if ABC aired something, everyone saw it. The Beatles on Ed
Right.
Sullivan, right? Like everyone saw that, and it changed the world of music.
Yeah.
That's
For
never
me, it
going
was
to happen.
whoever. For me, it was whoever was in Hit Parade or in Circus Magazine. They just came out. It's like you followed those to the T.
Exactly.
These are the new
Or
bands.
whoever was on MTV, right?
Yep.
You know, and that was it, and that made them huge. And now there's just so much of an outlet for that I just don't know that anyone will ever be that big again.
Yeah, I agree. I almost think it's an oversaturation of bands.
For sure.
So like, yeah, when we were growing up, for me, it was record labels. You know,
Right.
nothing excited me more going to the record store, and I still go to the record store to this day. I love it. Is back in the day, I would buy a record not even knowing what the band sounded like. I was like, all right, they're on, you know, Metal Blade, or they're on Noise, or whatever was the cool label at the time. Had a cool album cover. That's how I discovered Slayer. I went to the record store, I saw the cover of Hell Awaits, and I thought, fuck, this looks amazing. I'm going to buy that record. I had never heard them. I never heard of them. You know, in 1985, it wasn't like the internet or any of that stuff. So you just had to buy shit based on the record label it was on, the album cover, what they look like. It was kind of a crazy time, but nowadays the oversaturation of it is just too much.
Yeah. Well, I'm really hopeful that something will keep it alive and keep it going. I know a lot of younger folks are picking up instruments.
That's great.
And hopefully that comes back in some way, shape, or form again. Obviously, it won't be what it is now, but at least hopefully we'll have it in the future. You know what I mean?
Well,
yeah.
So
well, what also hurts it a little bit, Rob, and I'll make this point real quick, is you got a band like Volbeat. I love that Volbeat's really popular, and I love Volbeat. I was into the Volbeat because I saw James wore a Volbeat shirt from Metallica many years ago when you could only buy their albums from Europe, and I was doing that. But now they're out, they're huge, and then the metalheads, you know, they rip on them, and it's like, dude, you shouldn't be ripping on Volbeat. You should love the fact that they're popular because it's going to keep this music that we all love alive.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Huge point, man. Great place to end with it there. I so appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys joining us. This has been great talking all things Ozzy, patient number 9. So glad for you guys to be here. Check these guys out on Diary of the Madmen, the Ultimate Ozzy podcast, all the streaming services. You guys are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm sure you're all over the place, right? Just as we are.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Excellent. And I know you're probably going to get a sneak peek of the rest of the album coming up. I hope you give me maybe a little bit of info on what you hear. It would be great to hear about that. And so good to speak to you guys. And hopefully we can speak to you again sometime in the future.
Yeah, you
Thank
too,
you so
man.
much.
Thanks for your patience. For the listeners that don't know, I was 30 minutes late getting on, and they had to wait on me. I apologize. And thank you for your patience.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem.
Hey, Rob, thank you so much. It was great getting to
Thank
know
you.
you, man. And, you know, hey, you're my New York metal brother. So anytime, we'd love to have you on sometime too. And definitely we'd love to be back. So thank you.
Excellent. So great, you guys. Definitely great chatting with you. And if you folks out there want to know more about us, you have questions or comments, please feel free to email us at talkingaboutrock@gmail.com. Please like us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for this show and all our other interviews, you can catch us on all the streaming services for the podcast. Again, guys, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Good health, Ozzy, and Knight Ozzy Osbourne.
That's right. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, man.